All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the busted up streets of Fullerton, California, under a very pleasant fall morning here. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2022. Partly cloudy, a little bit of weather modification, a little bit of aerosols being dispersed up there, but by and large, it looks like just a little bit of high clouds being spun off of a little low pressure system that's spinning around off the coast of the western United States, giving us about 71 degree temperatures here in the Southland. Okay, so I peruse the news. I don't dig into it too deep, but I look at the headlines. I look at a lot of headlines because the headlines are what they want you to read to grab your attention, so you'll go down one of their rabbit holes, right? And it's no mystery that the New York Times is run by a bunch of degenerate scum, lying people that call themselves journalists, when they're really just pushing nothing more than Bolshevik, Marxist, socialist, communist, Christ-denying, subversive garbage. That's what the editorial board's all involved in, folks. And they're not alone. They're in good company amongst their bad intentions, right? So today there was a headline about natural gas being piped into homes in California containing high levels of benzene, right? And benzene is a very common chemical in the laboratory. It's a very common chemical in industry. It's a building block of organic chemistry. If any of you have ever had your round with organic chemistry, you'll know that the benzene molecule is like a glass of water to someone in a restaurant. Everyone gets water. Everyone in organic chemistry gets loaded up with benzene, right? That's just something that's a fact of life, folks. But I don't want to focus on the benzene as much as I want to focus on what they're up to here, because they're saying that, these so-called fossil fuels, right? And first of all, let me tell you right now, there is no such fossil fuel, ladies and gentlemen. Oil and petroleum and all of these hydrocarbons are produced abiotically in the depths of the earth. And they are renewable sources of energy in the largest sense of the word, because the earth continues to produce these things. They're produced through geothermal chemical processes below the earth. And it's a process that continues to refill all the empty oil wells. They'll drain these oil wells, they'll come back in 50 years later, they're filled back up again. Now, granted, it's not bubbling up all over the ground like it was many years ago. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, for just a moment here. So, granted, it's not bubbling up like it was, many years ago when the surface oil pools were obvious. But oil is ubiquitous, folks, and there's a reason God gave it to us, because it's very useful for everything. And the more we understand chemistry, and the more we understand how to make things out of these raw materials God has provided for us, the better our lives are. But they can also be used for evil. But the war on oil, the war on natural gas, is really a war on fire, because they're using it to literally socially re-engineer our society into the Hunger Games model, where resource consumption is totally restricted, resource allocation is highly controlled, and resource ownership is out of the reach of 99.999% of the population. And you accomplish this by making everything prohibitively expensive, by removing access to the very basic necessities that are required for the procurement production and distribution of things that would otherwise be extremely affordable and inexpensive in a normal, sane world. The natural gas containing benzene going into these homes, folks, there's a lot of stuff in natural gas. Primarily natural gas is methane. But, there are going to be contaminants through the refining process, the transport process, and sometimes even intentionally spiking chemicals in the natural gas. I mean, look at what they're doing with the electricity in the power grid. They're putting brain waves into the electricity into the grid, folks. I mean, you're not just getting 60 hertz out of that wall, all right? There's a lot more going on. They can put stuff in the current. They do. So they're trying to freak everybody out about how evil natural gas is, that the stoves are emitting benzene, that it's a carcinogen, that the exposure and danger from the exposure and the health effects are a linear dependent form, right? And so in other words, the more exposure you get, the more health effects you get. And so they're crying about how the sky is falling because of natural gas containing benzene coming out of your stove even when it's turned off, right? And so they're telling us that these fossil fuel climate change gases like methane, like gasoline, well, gasoline's a liquid, but these are petroleum products that they don't want us having access to. Folks, here's the deal, all right? Natural gas is an amazing fuel. It's storable, portable, extremely safe, extremely efficient, and extremely useful. It is used to heat homes. It is used to cook food. It is used to boil and heat water. It is used in industry for all kinds of manufacturing processes. And it's an indispensable form of energy. And they're telling us we can't have it because it's affecting the climate. Folks, what's affecting the climate are the scalar weapons, the cellular infrastructure arrays, the Doppler systems on the ground as they spray the stuff in the sky and heat up the atmosphere and move the jet stream around with the Tesla antenna farms like the one up in Kokona, Alaska that they claim isn't running anymore, right? The big HARP, right? Folks, they've got these antenna farms in China, Russia. They've got them all over the world. So, they control the weather. It is not the greenhouse gases. There is no such thing as a greenhouse gas, folks. Okay? That's just part of the school system's brainwash. But here's the really sick part. And every time I bring up the school districts, I want to tie in their complicity because here's the deal, folks. They're trying to get you to be afraid of very minuscule concentrations of benzene in the natural gas in your stove, right? I mean, it's negligible, all right? Let me tell you what's not negligible, all right? They're sitting here talking about natural gas containing, harmful levels of benzene being piped into California homes, and they don't want anybody having a gas stove or gas heater or gas water heater anymore, right? That way, when they shut the power off, you can't cook and you'll take cold showers. Can't have hot water. And, by and large, the rest of the country, they're going to, basically ban natural gas. So you'll freeze to death if they shut the water off because, most of you are going to be living in these homes that don't have a fireplace. And, the next step is going to be banning wood burning, right? But I'm going to get to my point right now, folks. You see, they don't want you to think about the biggest threat to your health in your home. And it is something that is being piped into every home. And primarily it has been piped into every home because of the school district. And what I'm talking about is wireless radiation, all right? Every home, unfortunately, when I go for a walk down the street through my neighborhood, these moronic, imbecile, idiot neighbors that I have, who all work for the school district and the government, they've got all these Bluetooth systems and Wi-Fi systems. I mean, you can walk down the street and there's like 20 of them. These people are absolute morons, okay? And they work for the system. And they personally know everything about who I am and everything I've said because I've got pictures and their names on my websites exposing their involvement in weaponizing the schools and the colleges. There is no discussion about how microwave radiation is being sprayed throughout all these homes. And primarily, the reason that the microwave radiation was brought into these homes years ago was because the school districts began issuing wireless infertility pads so that the children could go to school with a television set in their hands, and so they could stay up all night with a microwave transmitter on their reproductive organs, emitting radiation that sterilizes them, emitting radiation that screws up their melatonin production and affects their circadian rhythm and messes up their sleep cycle and messes up their health, and emits blue light that messes up their circadian rhythm and messes up their sleep cycle and messes up their health, as they are being spoon-fed lies and garbage curriculum to destroy their mind and turn them into a weaponized, myopic, degenerate, Christ-denying moron. No, I don't have a smart meter on my home. I have an analog meter. They come and read it. Does two things. It keeps them from remote controlling the weaponry on the house, and it keeps the guy working, right? I'm not going to answer that question again, but thank you for asking it. Folks, they're not talking about the elephant in the room, which is the microwaves in the home. And, you know, the school system is such a fraud. It's such a joke. It's so disgusting. It's so worthless. And it's totally evil because they will never do any real research or any real science. For example, there's this school called Troy High School in Fullerton, California, which is a weaponized Wi-Fi prison. Go drive by the place. It looks like a prison. It's run by very evil people, and you know who you are. And you have sheet metal walls in these classrooms. The walls are made out of sheet metal, folks. And they've put these high-powered access points on the ceiling. And there's 30 Chromebooks running, and all the children have Wi-Fi on their phone, their Bluetooth on their phone. So there's like 100 signals bouncing around inside these classrooms. And so you scratch the surface with that, right? No, you haven't. That's insane enough as it is, folks. We all know that microwaves cause infertility. They can cause cancer. They disrupt melatonin production. They disrupt the sleep cycle. They wreck your health. And that's why everybody that goes to these classrooms has their health wrecked. And there's some people that work there that have stuff cut out of their brain. They have these things growing inside their skulls. Some of these people there have all kinds of myelin degenerative disorders. And, you know, there's a cancer cluster there. And I mean, folks, here's the real deal, folks. This place touts itself as some intellectual intelligentsia academia unit that's supposed to be this exquisite, exclusive educational experience, right? As these poor victims are all jacked up on Adderall, staying up till 2 in the morning studying a bunch of worthless, useless crap so they can kill each other and get into a overpriced, worthless, useless college that teaches them nothing but lies. But here's the thing. They will never conduct any real scientific experiments. Like, really simple, right? You go to the Dollar Tree and you get a thing of paper plates, and you go to the Dollar Tree and you get a thing of napkins, and then you go to the Dollar Tree and you buy a couple packs of seeds, right? And then on one side of the room, you wet the plate, wet the towel, put the seeds on it, and stick a Wi-Fi router in front of it. And then on the other classroom, you do the same thing, but you don't put the Wi-Fi router on it, and do an experiment and see how the seeds grow, right? Oh, they'll never do that. How many times I ask them to do that at the school board meeting? They'll never do that because they don't want to know. And the students are so stupid and arrogant because their teachers are so evil and arrogant that they'll never even have the inclination to do what I just said, even if they're asked to do it. All right. Well, you can have, I don't know, maybe you can have some fish in a tank. And in one room, you could put the fish in the tank, male and female, and, you know, same conditions, same temperature, same lighting, same feed, and put a Wi-Fi router next to it. And then in another room, put another tank in the room, but don't put a Wi-Fi router next to the tank, and see which ones have eggs and hatch and have babies. Now, how much would that cost you? $50 at PetSmart. The school district has, I don't know, a $200 million budget. Oh, they won't do that. No, they're going to teach you about how to, fall in love, have sex with a minor, and commit suicide in a Shakespeare novel, right? It's disgusting. They're going to teach you all about NASA and how all this green screen fake video game footage is, all these super clear images coming from a asteroid 200 billion miles away, but they can't get my license plate from space, right? Because there is no such thing. It's all lies. Or maybe they could, at the college level, like the upper academia levels, right? The upper echelons of higher learning, as they call it. Bunch of garbage, right? Bunch of trash, a bunch of lies, a bunch of divisive crap and fake history and BS, just sociological garbage. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do case studies on how many fast food workers, had that microwave transmitter next to their abdomen, and when they're working the drive-through at one of these restaurants, and my daughter, I told my daughter, look, if you get a job, you ain't working in one of these stupid places because you're not going to put a microwave transmitter on your waist next to your ovaries. You know how they wear these headsets and they got that transmitter on their belt? Well, do you think any of the colleges would, do a study about how many of these women had autistic children or Down syndrome children? No. Instead, they're looking for a vaccine for autism. You see what I'm talking about? Do you think any of these higher level universities or junior colleges, any of these teachers, any of these administrators, or any of these high level administrators like the morons that live in my neighborhood, right? No. All they want to do is grant write and rubber stamp and accept money to keep the machine going to ruin everybody. And in the meantime, you have these propaganda outlets telling us we can't have a fire in our house. We can't have a gas stove. Oh, but it's okay to have, a wireless telephone on the desk. It's okay to have a wireless router on the nightstand. It's okay to have a wireless gaming controller in the lap of your child. It's okay to have a wireless mouse in your hand. It's okay to have a wireless speaker system in the living room. It's okay to have a wireless DVR everywhere going through every bedroom. It's okay to have a wireless camera system everywhere. It's okay to have a wireless baby monitor all over the place in the child's rooms. It's okay to have a wireless refrigerator and a wireless air conditioner and everything communicate, wireless light bulbs. Folks, they won't talk about how all this microwave radiation causes melatonin suppression and people can't sleep, and you wonder why they can't sleep. And what's the solution? Everyone's taking these sleep aids, these melatonin pills. You think the school district would teach children anything that is useful? Of course not. Because if an education is free, it's worth nothing. Do you understand me? If an education is free, it's worthless, ladies and gentlemen. And why do you think they take these stupid people and pay them all this money to work half a year and teach the same crap year after year? And when you try to approach them with information or truth, they mock you and they double down and they circle the wagons and they protect their little paltry salaries so they can wax their little Teslas and drive around like a bunch of emasculated fools thinking they're important, when in fact their legacy is one of destroying our future. But we can't have a gas stove, and benzene leaking out of a stove that's not turned on is a big, gigantic threat that warrants all kinds of legislative action at the municipal level, at the county level, at the state level, and even at the federal level. As they weaponize the classrooms, they weaponize the homes, they weaponize the apartments, they weaponize the workspaces. There are people that work with a wireless headset on their head, with that thing transmitting all day long with the effective radiated power equivalent to a cell phone in use. And no one's talking about it. They're talking about benzene in the methane, right? There we go again with the lies and the nonsense. As they kill you softly and silently, you know, there's nothing worse than sleep deprivation, and it's all being done to children. And, you know, the schools are probably the worst offenders. There is nothing more harmful and dangerous to children than an education. There is nothing more harmful and dangerous to a child than being in a government school classroom surrounded by wireless devices, being taught Bolshevik, communist, Marxist, cultural Marxism, social Darwinism, death education, secular humanist lies, full of just complete perverted sex ed and nonsense, right? That's the schools, folks. And it's being done intentionally. They claim the attendance is mandatory, but you can homeschool your children and rescue them. And you can get rid of your dumb Mercedes or your purse collection, or stop taking your Disney cruises, and you can take care of your children, right? But you got to have a new car, and you got to have all this worthless crap, right? As you dump your children into these places. Now, I know that some of you don't have a choice because they've destroyed your marriage and the man's out of the house and your back's to the wall. But your back's never to the wall because Jesus Christ can show you the way. And if you need help, go to one of these churches and ask them to help you. And if they refuse to help you, send me an email to the name and phone number and email of the church that denied you help, and maybe we'll contact them for you. Because after all these churches are pulling in millions of dollars a year tax-free with no transparency in their finances. And, you know, since Jesus is coming back next month, you'd think they'd be giving all their money away, right? My point is, folks, is everything they tell you to worry about is nothing to worry about, okay? The climate is not changing from, you know, cows belching methane. The climate is not changing from you driving your car. The climate is not changing because of the airplane taking you to a business meeting. The climate is changing because of the advanced electromagnetic weaponry that has been invented and deployed and is fully operational now, so that they can lie to you and tell you that you can't have a fire, you can't have a car, you can't have a steak, you can't have any fertilizer, you can't have any electricity, you can't have any heat, and you got to do as we say or we're all going to die. See, that's their scam, folks. And the agents of subversion that keep this train rolling down their crooked tracks are the schools. And you people who work for the schools are directly responsible for what is happening. And if you think what's going on is okay, you just wait until you are turned over to what is called cleanness of teeth, as God's word describes the conditions of a famine. When they get away with this, if they're allowed to get away with what they're about to do to us by taking away fossil fuel, as they call it, if they ban things like the internal combustion engine, if they ban these things that are the backbone of society, like energy production and energy consumption, things that burn, if they take away fire, you are going to understand what it means to starve to death. Right now, we're in the beginning phases. We've probably got about 7 or 8 more years before they go full bore on us. But if you want to, think you're going to save the world by driving an electric car, if you think you're going to save the world by going quote unquote green, you got another thing coming, okay? Because that's not going to save anything. The only way we're going to save this world is by making sure that people are not stupid idiots that go along with all of these tyrannical edicts that are meant to undermine the actual existence of our society in its present shape and form, and turn us into a bunch of human cattle headed for a slaughterhouse. That is the plan. The last thing you got to worry about is benzene levels leaking out of your natural gas stove, ladies and gentlemen. I would venture to say that the average person probably has about 20 sources of wireless radiation in their home emitting 24/7, and the children can't sleep. And, by the way, did you know that microwave radiation If you haven't figured this out, it goes through walls, it goes through windows, it goes through your body. Did you know that wireless microwave radiation results in morphological changes to your insulin receptors, resulting in a phenomenon that is commonly referred to in chemistry and biology as structural isomerism? And what happens is when you morphologically change an insulin receptor, it can't bind. And so it can't uptake the sugar. And so do you know what happens, folks? Wait, did you know that microwaves make you fat? Did you know that Wi-Fi makes you fat? Did you know that the people that have the most microwave in their homes are the fattest? Did you know that, folks? It does one of two things. It either really makes you gain a lot of weight or it really makes you not able to sleep. And so you're a caffeine junkie, right? Does this sound familiar to any of you? Well, when they turn on the weaponized stuff in the millimeter wave range, which they're coming out with, which they're rolling out in the homes, then you won't be able to breathe, folks. That's a whole different animal, a whole different ball game. And that is why 5gdangerous.com is one of my very important websites. Do you think that any of this education is worth anything, folks? Like I said, if it's free, it's worthless. Okay? You need to understand that if the schools were really worth their salt, if the education was worth anything, we wouldn't have any of these problems. As a matter of fact, these schools are the reason we have these problems. Okay? And they will never conduct real science. It's all the same nonsense. It's all the same lies. They absolutely, positively, 100% protect all of the agendas. As they sit there and leave all these weaponized microwave systems in the classrooms, all the children have weaponized wireless microwave so-called educational devices. I mean, for crying out loud, the school district and the colleges are giving out Wi-Fi hotspots, right? So these children are putting this thing right next to their heads on their desk, leaving it on all day and night. They don't shut it off. It's disgusting, folks. And then when you think about what they've done to the air conditioning systems in these schools, right? In these ventilation systems, they've put in these, might as well say it, they've put in these cold plasma reactive oxygen species generating systems that create these transient oxygen species that they damage the lungs. So, is there any connection between breathing weaponized ventilation and respiratory ailments? You bet your bottom dollar. You think they'll ever do a study in any of these schools on the effects of reactive oxygen species in the lungs of people in closed environments where these systems have been placed in the ducting of the HVAC systems? No. But they will tell you that we've got to purify the air, right? When your child has a bout with the reality of the weaponization, when they start coming home with migraines and bloody noses and they can't sleep and they don't feel good after they've been at school all day, go tell the school nurse. Make them file a report. I was friends with a family. My son had a young boy that he was very good friends with. And when I was in the living room of this man with his wife, who happens to be a school nurse in Fullerton, in the Fullerton School District, and I was going over the Wi-Fi Dangerous website and showing them all of this information, and the father looked at me, he saw it, the light went on. But the wife was a nurse at the school district, and she was one of the nurses that was refusing to write incident reports for all the bloody noses, for all this Wi-Fi at the elementary level. And, this is just another example of how parents told their children not to play with my children, right? Well, when you got parents like that, who needs children as friends like that for your children? You see, folks, the blood's on their hands. because silence is complicity, and going along with this is being guilty and being responsible. And aiding and abetting this is criminal. And so you're not just stupid, you're evil. And I don't mind saying that with absolute conviction, especially the neighbors on my street, what they did when they, let's just put it this way, folks, they worked against your children. Not so much me. I don't care what they say about me. I care about what they've done to the children. But you need to understand that what is happening is far worse than you're being told, and what you're being told to worry about is nothing to worry about, when in fact you should be worrying about everything you're not being told to worry about. Do you understand? All right, no, this car can't do a burnout. This thing has 120 horsepower, okay? It's got, I couldn't even get this thing to go up to Lake Arrowhead up the mountains without dropping it into first and second. It has no power, but you know the power that it does have? The truth emanates from this thing like nobody's business as it rolls down the road, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I think we've gone long on this. I think we're ready to cut this broadcast. This is Joe Imbriano, your host, coming to you in the name of Jesus Christ. And don't be worried about the benzene and the methane. Worry about the weaponized trinkets and gadgets that are all over your house, that are giving your young child testicular cancer from playing on his Xbox, that are giving your wife the propensity for obesity by sleeping next to the Wi-Fi router, by giving your wife the ability to have an autistic child by putting the laptop on her ovaries, and by giving your daughter the ability to never need birth control by putting that infertility pad in her lap at school every day. That's your legacy, folks, by remaining silent. And folks, I've been sounding the alarm on this for far too long, for the better part of a decade. I'd be standing out in front of these schools, and I've got to drive by these schools every day. It makes me sick how evil and cowardly and stupid and degenerate the parents are that have still sat back and done absolutely nothing about this nightmare. And it's amazing. I might as well throw this out there. I've got a friend of mine, and I've got a lot of friends, folks. A lot of people feed me information. A lot of people give me information. But I'll tell you this. You work for the school district, good luck getting pregnant, okay? That's all I can say. If you're in that classroom all the time, good luck getting pregnant, because there's a good chance it'll never happen, even as an adult. But if you're a young girl, you better keep that thing out of your lap. You better, think about it for a second, folks. Has any of the health teachers or the science teachers or anybody said, don't put that cell phone in your bra? Don't sleep with it under your pillow? You think they'll ever tell you about breast cancer or, about infertility? No! What good is this garbage, ladies and gentlemen? Like I said, if the education is free, it's worthless, folks. And the people that work there are worthless, too. As a matter of fact, they're weaponized idiots. And it's really sad, because if you don't realize what you're part of by now, you never will. So it's up to you parents to protect your children, okay? All right, thanks for tuning in. This is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer. Have a wonderful day. And I don't want to hear about my beard or my haircut, okay? Just take the information and ignore the delivery. See you later.